Hello again, precious friends. Thank you for joining Aunt Patty, the carnivore hippie. Let's get serious. It's hard to make profound lifestyle changes. It's hard to what may be completely changing your diet. That's not easy. It requires a great deal of commitment. And that's just hard to do, especially if you have a life and you have other things that you need to do. Or maybe you're suffering from a mood disorder like I was. Or maybe you're just suffering from all around ill health, low energy, depression, pain conditions, digestive dysfunction, lots of medications and trips to the doctor. There's any number of reasons your life could be busy and stressful. And you know deep down that maybe this would make a difference. But how do you get up the gumption and the energy to just get it done? Well, that's hard, but I'll tell you what worked for me. Everybody knows the surface reasons why they want to do this. I want more energy. I want to be more healthy. I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be sick. I want my peripheral neuropathy to get better. Any number of things. But if those reasons were enough, you probably would have been able to do it already. So sometimes the reasons that we give ourselves for wanting to do this are kind of superficial. And we don't realize it because it's hard to think beyond the superficial. You know, wanting to be healthier and not wanting to be fat and are just so logical that we tell ourselves, yeah, that must be the reason. So you don't think any further. Well, like I said, if it was enough, if that was the real reason, you probably would have been able to do it by now. So we got to go deeper. I know I did. And how do you figure out that real reason, that deep, important reason that's more important than anything else? That's hard to figure out. And the way I did it, with the assistance of a health coach, was I had to sit and figure out the 5 top reasons why I didn't want to do it. And whenever we're having trouble doing something difficult, doing something hard, and we're either failing to start, or we're quitting in the middle, or we're doing things to self-sabotage, any of those things is probably because there's reasons why we don't want to do it that we haven't addressed. All right, so let's just get honest with ourselves. Changing our lives and changing our habits is hard. And subconsciously or even consciously, we resist doing hard things. So the 5 top reasons why you don't want to do it. And that can be hard to think of. So you may have to sit and think about this for a while. But I want you to do it, and I want you to write them down because it's going to be important. And you'll see why in a minute. I'll share with you my 5 most important reasons why I did not want to change my diet. Despite the fact that I was ill and I was depressed and I was just done with life, I told myself I didn't care anymore. I just was done. I didn't care. And so why bother? But doing this exercise really, really, really helped me figure out what was going on. So I really, really encourage you to do it, because once you've done it, you'll open up meaning inside yourself that you really probably didn't know was there, right? So my 5 most important reasons was, number 1, my diet as I had it, even though I was sick and unhappy, it made my life easier. If I didn't feel like cooking, it was easy for me to nip out and get something, even something that was recognized as relatively healthy, pretty cheaply and very quickly. So, why would I want to give that up? Of course, I wouldn't want to give that up. That'd have to be something really important for me to give that up. So that was the first reason. The second reason was I was afraid that this new way of eating might make what little social life I had kind of awkward. I did have a standing date about once a month with some friends of mine where we would go out and we would go out for dinner. And I thought, I don't want to be the kind of person who always ends up being the one who has to choose the restaurant out because there's only a limited number of places where I will eat. I didn't want to be that person. That felt kind of creepy and awkward to me. So I was afraid that it would impact my social life, what little I had of it. The third one was, I was the family cook. I went to cooking school. Cooking was a big part of my creative outlet when I had the energy to do it. And I was the one who made the birthday cakes and the holiday pies, and I cooked Thanksgiving for my family every year. And I got a lot of props. I got a lot of admiration and compliments for my cooking. And that's very fulfilling. And when I realized that I was probably going to have to give that up, that was it was a big downer, because I realized if these foods that I was serving my family were as toxic as I was afraid they actually were, how could I go on serving them to my family and loved ones? I couldn't. So that was something I was going to have to give up. And that took a big bite out of my artistic practice, so to speak, and left kind of a hole in my creative self. And the fourth reason was I was just pissed off. I perceived that there were many people in this world who could eat these foods and not suffer from them. And why did it have to be me that suffered like this? It wasn't as though I was stuffing my face with crap all day long. It didn't seem to me that I ate any more junk food than anybody else did. And yet here I was, just being made sicker and sicker and sicker by them. So I was angry. It felt like I was having to give up a whole bunch of stuff in my life for something that was really, in my mind, still a maybe. And lastly, my fifth reason was just that. It was a maybe. I was not at all convinced that it would work. Even after learning everything I had learned, and even after understanding that the science of metabolism made sense, and the new things that I had learned actually made more sense than the old things that the doctors and the nutritionists had been telling me, I was still afraid that I would do all this work and make all this effort to make this lifestyle change. And again, it wouldn't work. And the thought of being in that place, of having the last thing that I had finally put my hope in after years and years of having given up would fail on me, was so dark and so depressing that I just didn't even want to risk it. I was afraid to even try. And those were the 5 reasons why I was sabotaging myself. Because I really, deep down, wasn't convinced it would work. I didn't want to give up all the things, all the roles that food played in my life. And I just was angry that the universe should expect me to do this. Anyway, And I finally, at one point, I remember one day I was sitting and thinking about this exercise. What is my big reason? What is the reason why I should try this that trumps all the other reasons, that overarches all of these other reasons, that make these other reasons largely inconsequential? And I remembered that a friend of mine had been diagnosed with breast cancer. And her oncologist had recommended that she have a mastectomy instead of a lumpectomy because he thought that it would be best for her long-term prospects of remaining cancer-free. And myself thought, well, I mean, that's a slam dunk. But this friend of mine, she was almost 60 and she was in really good shape. She was pretty, she was slim, she had a great figure. She had a superior figure for a 60-year-old, let me tell you. She still wore bikinis at almost 60, okay, with no qualms. And the thought of losing her breast after basically having been the hot girl her whole life, which she was just devastating to her. And so she had decided to have the lumpectomy against the recommendations of her oncologist and her other doctor as well. And I remember thinking, I needed to say something. And I was kind of hesitant at first. But my husband had lost his mother at about the age of 12 from breast cancer. And that was back in the early 70s. And his mother didn't have a whole lot of options, not nearly as many options as my friend had in that age. And I told her, you have kids. And she said, yeah. I said, my husband lost his mother to cancer when he was 12. And he has suffered from it and still to this day suffers from that experience. And if you pass away, if the worst comes to pass and you pass away from breast cancer, your kids are going to suffer. And I really think it would be so sad, and I really think that you would regret it if you got to the end of your life and realized that you had not done everything you possibly could try to spare your children the grief of watching their mother die from cancer. And I said, please pardon me if I'm stepping out of line. And she said, no. And as it turned out, she did eventually have the mastectomy. And she told me later on that I had helped her make the right decision. She had the mastectomy and she had reconstruction. And frankly, she was just as hot as she had been before. In fact, she was so proud of that boob, she would show it to anybody. Literally. No, I mean, I saw her pop her boob out for people, even men sometimes. She'd pop her boob out and show them the reconstruction because it was just so great. Anyway, so she told me later on that I had helped her make the right decision. And I remembered that and I thought, wow, what am I going to think of myself if 20 years on, after I have done, God only knows how much damage, permanent damage to my body, because I wouldn't try because I was afraid. And I decided I had to make the same decision that she did. I'm afraid. I don't want to do it. Part of me doesn't want to do it. It's going to be hard. It's going to be inconvenient. It may not work. But in 20 years, if I'm sick, do I want to look back and say, there was something I could have tried, but I didn't because I was afraid. And now might be too late to fix some of the important stuff that's broken because you can only abuse your body for so long before bits and pieces start to break down permanently, especially at my age. Now I'm 60 and I don't want to get there. Praise God, it worked. But that was my big reason. That was my reason. I didn't want to look back and say, I could have tried, but I didn't because I was afraid. I'm bigger than that. I'm stronger than that. And I'm braver than that. And it wasn't easy. And I backslid. And I made mistakes. But you know what? I got back up. When I fell, I got back up. And a couple of times, I fell so hard, I fell off the wagon. I like to say, I not only fell off the wagon, but I fell off the wagon, bounced across the road, rolled down a hill, and landed in a mud puddle. But you know what? I got myself up out of the puddle, climbed back up the hill, and I got back on the wagon. And here I am, 115 pounds down. All of my health markers are great. All of my troublesome symptoms are better, if not gone. I live the life that I want to live in every way that I want to live it. Well, except for being a millionaire. That might make a difference, but you know, what the hey. But I can do physically pretty much whatever I want to do. I feel great. I get up in the morning feeling great. I go to bed at night feeling great. And I'm not going to go back. And I'm not going and I'm so glad that I did it. I believe wholeheartedly that any human being can benefit from this way of eating. Don't let the chance pass you by because you're fearful or angry. All right? What are your 5 reasons that you don't want to do it? You can share them in the comments. If you don't want to share them with everybody, drop me an email if you'd like to share them with me. But you don't even have to share them with anybody. Just find out what your top 5 reasons to not start today or tomorrow, depending on what time of day it is. And sit and think about those. And then think of your reason, your big reason, your rainbow reason, the reason that overarches everything else. All right? Think about it. Figure it out. And you can lean on that. You can take that with you. Figure it out and write it on a piece of paper and put it in a locket. Tattoo it on the inside of your arm. Wear it inside of a bracelet. Something. But keep it with you. It will help you through. Find your reasons. Find your reasons not to, and find the reason that cancels out all those other reasons. All right? That's it for right now. I pray for you to do this exercise. It will be tremendously empowering. All right? Love you all. Peace, love, and meat. Until we meet again. Bye-bye.